Welcome to Fungi Frontiers, the official podcast of the Maine Fungi Fest. I'm your host, Bobby Paluzzi. Let's go here today. So now, who have I got with me? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm usually doing this only on the audio, but David Gray is here, Gray, not to be confused, which is the internet wants to confuse you with a big singer. But this is David Gray, and he's a big mushroom. To tell you the truth, I want you to explain a lot about yourself because you seem to have a huge amount of cultivation experience, and you're also into explaining how that's relevant in today's world.
I love it. Yeah, teaching
So,
people is my focal point. I really like to kind of and teaching beginners. I think it's important to get new people into mushrooms. I think getting people excited about the things that I'm excited about is really what's fun
mhm.
about science in general. So, in apotheosis fungi is my project. It is the thing that I do. It's what I spend most of my time with. That and a group from Facebook that I help manage called the Mycology Network Beginners with Mushrooms. And what we do over there, we have about 9,500 people, and it's nationwide. Well, somewhat worldwide now. We've kind of expanded into Europe and other parts of like Australia. So we have a
Sure.
lot of people who like to cultivate, who like to learn, and we are geared mostly towards the novice home cultivator who wants to learn either to grow food or medicine. So we
No
kind of
kidding.
cover all bases if we can, and it started mostly as a cubensis geared group, but it turned into something that we kind of naturally evolved into many other aspects of mushrooms, and it kind of made sense for me to get into a lot of the food aspect of it too. I really enjoy
Can
just
can
about
you um can you go back to that one word? What was it again? Aspect cubensis, was it?
yes, Psilocybe cubensis is a species of mushroom that is cultivated widely for to medicinal purposes. So people use it for it's psychoactive. So people tend to want to learn to cultivate things that are either medicinal, food related, or active mushrooms. Those are generally the three
Right.
categories that people are. And then foraging is kind of another whole aspect, whereas cultivation is kind of its own little sphere.
Yeah, the first question that comes to mind is the difference between buying a mushroom and or the need or interest to cultivate your own. Um, and since there's at least 9,000 people kicking on Facebook about it, you're sure there's more than that of an interest
Oh,
out there. But how many people go through with it? Is it, how easy is it? All this kind of stuff.
and that's the fun part is bringing people. There is the part of what we'll get into as far as the workshops that I'm doing for the Fungi Fest are really about showing people that it is an easy process once you get down the simple fundamentals. And if you can kind of and there is a method for everyone. And I think that's the most important message I try to tell people is if you tried before or you've thought about cultivating mushrooms and you saw a method that looked way too complicated for you, or it seemed like it was something that was just way more expensive that you wouldn't want to delve into. Those are the people that I try to talk to about simple texts that are rudimentary, that can be done without so much as a pressure cooker sometimes. And they start to realize like, oh, maybe there is an avenue where I could grow, these things for myself and have success. So
Oh, you're giving me so many wonderful visuals. Pressure cooker. Uh,
sure. Oh yeah.
yeah, and
Sterilization.
And so what I'm going to do is ask you to go through the process in a second. But
Yeah.
what I want to know is how do you explain the end result? Like, okay, well, is it just for the cultivating of it, or is it for some end result? Like, do you go
Wow.
fishing to get the
You know what?
fish, or
I
is it?
find that that's a great question, and I appreciate you asking it. I find that the actual process of cultivation, the methodical, everything from the learning to the interaction to the actual application of the process is I find very therapeutic. I have multiple chronic health problems, and I
Mm.
got into this more or less originally to cultivate my own food and my own medicinal mushrooms, things like reishi and
Sure.
lion's mane, and it's the sort of thing where I don't think people realize how having a relationship with your food and with your medicine, it kind of it fosters a feeling that you wouldn't necessarily get if you were just purchasing these things from somebody else. It
Mm.
brings you into a relationship that you are knowing everything that goes into it. You're appreciating it, but you're also kind of reaping the fruits of your labor when you do actually harvest, and that success I think is more important than the actual mushroom growing. I think
Mm.
that is building a confidence every time you have a success. Every time you see a fruiting body come off the side of a wood block or in a tub, it brings a sense of gratification that it can't be uh, given to somebody. It's something that's earned, and you start to
There's
appreciate it.
I see what you mean. The fungi world is fascinating because it almost seems like it comes out of thin air.
Sure.
What's happening here? Oh, whoa! All of a sudden, this great thing is spawning from the side of a tree. Okay, so I got you there. So everything from a salad to better sensibilities,
Sure.
and way too many things in between to explain in a moment. But I do have this thing where I did want you to go through. We're gonna talk about what you're doing at Fungi Fest in a minute, but just as you could, if you could for a moment, go through that process and say the word pressure cooker in there so that we get this sense of like what's
Well, that's
happening.
actually part of
Yeah.
my workshop. It's showing people everything. The grain is really the aspect. People tend to ask, like, where do you start? Spores are really where you start. The spores
Wow.
coming together to mate and form mycelium that is will grow and spread, and little tendrils of things called hyphae will reach out through either soil or wood or whatever the medium that they're growing in. Say it's in my world, it's going through grain and then through a sterile medium that's giving kind of a matrix for them to grow in. So
Okay.
it's you start off with a grain process, which is the backbone of my workshop here.
There we go.
And
Now we're getting into it.
here we have just some wood-loving species that are on oats. And this is the mycelium just crawling through the oats and
Ooh,
colonizing that
look at
beautiful.
that.
And
Wow.
this is the inoculation point with agar. And this is a sterile medium that it grows on. And these are petri dishes with a malt extract or depending different nutrient sources. And it goes into the grain process. And once it's
Mm.
colonized the grain, which is its nutritional source, it goes into either, if it depending on what it is, if it's a dung loving species, then I tend to use sterile mediums like cocoa coir and vermiculite.
That's
And if it's
dung loving, folks. D-U-N-G
yeah,
loving.
running,
That's
yeah, yeah,
now I've thank you for
and
my thank you for my t-shirt idea at the fest, David. All right, so now that's great, actually, with the visual and everything. Um, okay, so what I want to do is now get to grain spawn, cornerstone of cultivation. That is one of your topics at the main Fungi Fest.
that's the important stuff. And that's where pressure cookers come in, is
Okay.
sterile grain. When you're preparing a grain jar like this, if you were to just take these oats and hydrate them and put them in a jar, what's going to happen is in the jar, you're going to wake up all kinds of nasty little spores and what's called endospores, which are within the grain itself, and
Okay.
all of these things that want to grow and compete.
Right.
Well, to allow for mycelium to grow, you need to sterilize this grain and make sure that it is hydrated well and sterile. So pressure cooking it for a determined amount of time, usually about 2.5 to 3 hours, is needed for the process to be complete without contamination. So if you're working in a closed environment, the worst thing you can do is have competitor fungi in here trying to battle it out.
Sure.
And
Sure.
that makes it super hard for the mycelium to take hold and get a good foothold to grow and
So
propagate.
you isolate it by sort of a climate kind of or a
Yes,
direct
and
temperature.
you can use any bread or any cereal grain essentially. So that goes with oats and rice and corn. I'm showing three different methods because I believe it's
Okay.
important. Like I said, to show people. So I'm doing that. Those were oats that I was just showing. I'm showing how to do oats in bags, which
Oh,
is something that I'll be showing how to load the pressure cooker properly with the bags and hydrate them properly and do what's called a no soak, no simmer process. So it's very uh, straightforward, something that people who don't necessarily want to have a whole bunch of steps can get wrap their head around. The other process is corn. Popping corn
right.
is
Nice.
one of my favorite things for new people to grow in,
Wow.
mostly because it shows.
Popcorn. You said popcorn.
Yes, sir. Popping corn. Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
And I use that. You can
Before
see
the
some
pop. Okay, before the pop. Gotcha. Yeah.
for the pop. And what you do is you hydrate this for about 45 minutes on a simmer, and that gives it a tender feel. So it wouldn't pop in the pressure cooker, but if you were to just add pressure cooker to this, you would have quite the
Right.
amount of
Right.
popcorn.
Right.
So, but no, the corn I like because it shows contamination very easily, and it's very simple for people to understand the process of doing jars of corn. It's also very widely available. People often ask me what's
Sure.
the best grain to grow in, and I tell them whatever's cheap and available to you because it depends really the process that you want to work with, but you can really get fungi to grow in just about any grain. So, and this process is good for uh, every mushroom except for mostly things like cordyceps, which is a completely different process. But for the most part, you're going to start all mushrooms the same way. You're going to start them, spore to either a solution called the liquid culture or agar, and then you go from that process to your
And
grain.
you'll just show that illustrate that as you go along. You'll have the cooker there. You'll have everything
Last
for us
year I
to.
did.
Yeah.
I do the process. So what I start to do is I show them the corn simmering process, and I get that going. While that's on doing its thing, I actually will go over and show them the oat process. Meanwhile, I'm writing on the board and playing teacher, but it's a lot of information to pack into a 100-minute, 90-minute, 100-minute setting. But I really had a great time the last year. So
Yeah, the thing is, the people are chill. They're not looking for some quickie, answer. It's something
and
in
I got
between a garden club and a sort of a consciousness awareness club of some sort, like in there somewhere. Hi, folks. This year's Maine Fungi Fest 2025 has a few sponsors: Norumbega Provisions LLC, North Spore Healer, Sanctuary, Float Harder, Elevate Mushrooms, the People's Congregation of Shakers and Movers, Apotheosis Fungi, Leaf Filter Gutter Protection, Root Healing Iboga Retreats, Southwest Shroomery, Veteran Psychedelic Network, MN Nice Botanicals, Creative Oxford Hills, Maine Intimacy, Relationship, and Sex Coaching, Renewal by Anderson, Ne Bia Dance Circus, Maine only, Riverside Lodge and Sauna, The Sacred Self, Decriminalize Maine, Driftless Saunas, Wild Embodiment, Creative Expressions, Good Medicine Collective, Nord Creative, and Padamani. Let's see you there, May 30th through June 1st on Sebago Lake. Guesswork to
yeah,
test work, is that in the
yes.
same?
I'm teaching people to. It's a harm reduction workshop. I'm far too long. People have gone on, anecdotes, and they will get a bag of psilocybin mushrooms, and they will have a friend told me, eat an eight, or this person told me to eat this many, and you're kind of really guessing. It's a shot in the dark. Is this going to be the experience that I want, as opposed to white knuckling it on my couch for an evening or, their other. So it's something that to me, there's a company called Miraculous that I've been using their product for the past 4 years. Any psilocybe cubensis that I work with, I like to kind of know the alkaloid content. So I can test using this reagent, and it's a very available thing to the public. It's something that is about a $30 test kit, and you can actually test within a very short period of time, and with a simple couple of processes, you can know the milligram content of your psilocybin containing mushrooms per gram.
So
So
very important stuff. The measuring, the amounts. It looks easy when it's in there, but
it
growing.
measures on a color graded scale. So you're actually using the color gradient on this
Ah,
chart, and you're looking at it in a very specific white light, so you don't have any influence on the color of the light passing through the reagent. But the reading of the test is really what makes kind of getting it right the hard part for a lot of people. So I think that I'm hoping to take a little bit of
the
that nonsense
guesswork.
frustration for people out, and that should be a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
I think it's because it's still a mysterious thing happening there, and the shape of it with all the little tendrils is mysterious in its own way too. Uh, it has to make sense somehow, and then it only does when it's big enough to see, kind of thing.
Sure.
But you're definitely on the microscopic level, and you're going to take us there is what I'm sensing, and give us a little reassurance of the process and why they're so important to us. Can you explain your position quickly as to uh, today's relevance of mushrooms and why you think on any level why you think it may be a resurgence taking place or at least a rediscovery or something like that.
Sure. I think that we've had a lot of really good spokespeople over the past decade or two. It wasn't We didn't really have a lot of visibility as a community for 25 odd years. I've been working in some capacity or other in sciences, and fungi has always been a thing that I've enjoyed, but it was very hard to pursue, especially in the active fungi realm, worrying about legal aspects of things, and just pursuing things that you enjoy, but also staying in a certain parameter. And I think that now people opening their minds a little bit to the aspects of the therapeutic realm. And I think that the idea that people aren't all trying to be deviants, I think we have to start to realize that a lot of these compounds are used in the proper context, aren't necessarily any more dangerous than, say, cannabis or any other compound that you would encounter that was psychoactive on the more widely available scale. So
So
I think
sometimes you,
that
you just need the right person to say the right thing at the right time and
very much.
enough people hear it and you've broken the spell. And
I think people like Paul Stamets and Alan Rockefeller have been amazing spokespeople for just educating people on the wider applications of mushrooms, even like not even in the psychoactive sense, but in the applications of like mycotech. There are applications for mycelium to make bricks that are not only flame retardant but
mm,
buoyant, and like they're
mm,
packing materials that could
mm,
replace
mm,
styrofoam if
mm,
there were a will to do so. I don't think that there
mm,
it wouldn't be quite as easy, but it would be something that if there were a will to do so, you could absolutely change the packing industry with just mycelium. And
mm.
people don't consider a lot of the more practical applications, I don't think. But I think as more people come out and discuss these things, and then you have the psychedelic component of these mushrooms that people look at it's starting to look more well-rounded, I think, and people are starting to understand that there is such versatility that there's probably a mushroom out there for everyone. Like
For you.
my
That's
my
right.
mom is almost 70, and she is just recently, like over the past 4 years, started consuming supplements of lion's mane that I grow.
Yeah,
And
what a
she has noticed an
good idea.
absolute benefit. And she now swears by it. And when she runs out, she has to ask me for more capsules. And it's like cool. But
That's a
my
nice
mom was
feeling.
never a mushroom person. She didn't really cook with them. It wasn't her thing. So it's interesting to find an application even for somebody who is really not interested in that aspect of fungi at all, and to use a culinary mushroom or a medicinal mushroom and find how it relates to a person. I think that's more my job. I think finding what speaks to a person to cultivate, and then finding a method that resonates with them. I think that's the thing that I'm here for. So
Final question, something that's come up a few times with me out here on the questioning platform of podcasts. Does the mushroom itself have a consciousness? Does it speak to you?
oh, that's a loaded question. I actually have just recently had a discussion with a friend about this the other day. He's a commercial mushroom farmer in France, and
Okay.
what led us to these things, and it kind of has been something that we've discussed in the context of, did the mushroom kind of choose us to we be good spokespeople, in other words. So like, do psychoactive mushrooms somehow influence people to cultivate? And I think that it's interesting when you start to discuss with people what led them to cultivation, and a lot of times they will say, well, it was this one experience that I had when I was 20, and I decided that I wanted to try to cultivate these things. Or I never realized, that's my other favorite, is I had an experience when I was 20, but for 20 years, I didn't realize I could even cultivate it. It never even crossed my mind. And that's one of my favorites.
That
So,
is the
like,
next step. The next step is to cultivate. Yeah. And get it,
and that,
get it, get a harness on doing that yourself and having your own um, incubator, something
that's
that's
right.
in there that you're living with, nurturing. And I can see that's the balance that you're achieving when you're making this. Even as you're imparting it to me, I can tell that's what that's what's coming across. So, David, I am going to thank you profusely, or at least a lot, whichever one applies.
This has
And
been a lot of
here,
fun.
here comes meeting you up there at the Fungi Fest on Sebago Lake with
Yeah, come see me.
Apotheosis. Did we say your name enough? Apotheosis Fungi.
Apotheosis fungi. Yes, that is
Fungi.
my company. You will see my big sign, and you will also see my mycology network sign as well. So that's the sign for the group that we have as well. So I've got my business sign on that wall, so I could
Wonderful.
yeah, definitely. It'll be a lot of fun though.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see all of it laid out, in front of you, ready to go, and then, the workshops and things. I may come up and give you a little interview again. All right. Well, nice to meet you,
Yeah,
David,
yeah.
and everybody out there. Hopefully, we've had a good time here talking to Dave. I think so. I think
No,
so.
thanks for joining me, and thanks for letting me join you.
Yeah. Peace. Thanks a lot.
Have a great day.